thank you all. Krista, I appreciate you all setting this up tonight. When you first reached out to me, along with Greg, my gym rat back there, we go to the same gym and work out. I've been looking forward to this because this is my second rodeo, as we say. It's the second time I've run, and there's a lot of great things about running for office, public office. There are a couple of other people in here running for office tonight. I see Jason Howell back here, who's an independent, and Boyd Walker right here. And some of the things that I like the most is voter interaction. Now, I was raised by a single mom. My dad died when I was very young, and I had two big sisters, and I tell you what, they taught me at the expense of a cuff upside my head to be a good listener. And so one of the things that I always try to do is, when I'm interacting, is to listen to you all, because that's how I learn what the constituency is concerned about, and that makes me a better representative. And I think all too often some of our career politicians think they have all the answers, and they don't listen to their constituency. So we've had a busy year here in Old Town and in Alexandria, from the waterfront development plan being passed, which I frankly did not support, to the Beauregard Small Area Plan being passed, which actually I do support, with the concerns that I have with the Winkler Nature Preserve. If you all are familiar with the Winkler Nature Preserve, it doesn't cost taxpayers anything. It's beautiful. You feel like you're out in the country when you're right in the middle of the Beltway. And there's already some concerns with that now from that monstrous Mark Center, and some of the erosion that's happening up in the north parts of Winkler, and that's a concern to me. I walked through there not too long ago. We've also had, we just mentioned, the closing of Genon, of Moran. And I was talking to Roger earlier. I know you all played a big role in that, and on the monitoring committee. And it took you a long time. You probably felt like you were fighting that battle alone sometimes, but it worked out. And I applaud what you all did to make that happen. And we were talking a little bit beforehand about, well, what's next? You know, as we finish phase one and phase two starts, and they take that down, and how that's going to be developed or not developed in the future of Alexandria. So it's going to be interesting to watch that. I was just up in Potomac Greens the other day, had a meet and greet with some folks, and one of their biggest issues, anybody live in Potomac Greens up here? One of their issues is the Potomac Yard Metro stop, and I heard a lot of opinions. We don't want a Metro stop. We do want a Metro stop, but we want it at this location or that location. There are 3 locations. Actually, I think it's going to happen if the density supports it and we can figure out the funding, but it needs to be in a good place that's not obtrusive. I think the location that's furthest north on the west side, which actually is closest to the shopping, is probably the best place, but that's gonna go on and develop. So a lot of things happening, and you all are a part of that, especially up here in North Old Town. But I'm running for the United States Congress, and I'm here to talk to you tonight about issues that are happening across the water, across the Potomac, in Washington, D.C., or not happening, and what's going on with our country. I spent my life in the military, and I got to meet a couple of people here tonight who have served in the military. I don't know, where'd you go?
Right here.
Ed back here flew B-25s in World War II, and I appreciate your service, part of the greatest generation and why we're sitting here as free Americans today. And it was my honor to serve in the Army for 24 years. And so when you take that oath to support and defend the Constitution, it doesn't go away. And so what I'm doing now feels very much like service to me. But if the country were going in the right direction, and I thought that we had good representation, there's no reason to run. But I don't believe that the country is going in the right direction. I think we have some issues, and I want to discuss them with you tonight. And I don't believe that you're well represented in Congress, and I'm going to discuss that with you too. So as I said, it's the second time around for me, and so it is a good opportunity, and I look forward to your questions. Ask me some hard ones. And again, I'm not a career politician. If I don't know the answer, I'll let you know, but I look forward to our interaction tonight. I heard the Pope the other day, a quote that stuck with me. And he wasn't talking about the United States. He was talking about the world in general, but I think it's very applicable with where we are as a nation, with our budget and our debt and everything else. And he said that we are living at the expense of future generations. Now, I believe that. And when you look at the state of where we're headed, we have a very persistent high unemployment rate, and I know we've had a tough economy that our current president inherited, but nevertheless, we still are stuck at above 8%. And only in Washington, D.C., when people stop looking for jobs, do you stop counting them. You know, if we really had the same size of workforce that we had 3 years ago, we'd have about 12% unemployment right now. And that's a problem. Gas prices have doubled, and when you pay double at the pump, you're also paying more to buy a loaf of bread, a gallon of milk. You're paying more to go out to eat because all those goods and services cost more money. And so the other thing that concerns me a great deal is what we've seen with sequestration. You know, Congress has about an 8% approval rating. And I want to know who those 8% are that think that they're doing a good job. Because look at sequestration, folks. The sequestration, we could not get a Democrat and a Republican to agree on anything. And now we're going to have all these forced cuts, not the least of which, something that is important to me, is the defense budget, where we're going to lose another $500 billion. And it doesn't matter what party you're in. Leon Panetta is the Secretary of Defense. President Obama's Secretary of Defense said it would be devastating to our national defense if this happens. And General Dempsey, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, was in a hearing the other day. They said, well, General, isn't this kind of like shooting ourselves in the foot? He said, no, it's shooting ourselves in the head. And let me tell you something else. Not just is our defense security at stake, we have a whole lot of defense contractors right here in Northern Virginia. They're going to lose their jobs when this sequestration, if this goes through. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, just with one other metric to talk about, and that is our debt. Our debt that now exceeds our GDP. Every morning I get up and I go to usdebtclock.org. You ever been on that? You go to usdebtclock.org and you just see those numbers clicking, 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 clicking. We are addicted. I say we. Congress is addicted to spending your taxpayer dollars way beyond our means. And we have so much debt now that I saw a statistic the other day. Think about this. Young men and women who are joining the workforce right now, who are, say, 21, 22 years old, and they're going to ostensibly work their entire professional career and say they retire when they're 70. All the tax revenue that they'll pay in, all of it, stuff that they would pay for their defense, for their education, for their roads, for their Social Security, for their Medicare, we've spent it. And you know what else? If they have kids, the kids that they have, your grandkids, when they grow up and they work that same amount of time, all of the tax revenue they will pay, well, we spent that too. And so the Pope was right. We are living at the expense of our kids, our future generations. It is unconscionable. And it has to stop. So I don't think it's too difficult to work it. I think we need people in Congress who are willing to work across the aisle. That's how it's been before. We need some cooperation. I believe we need to live within our means. I believe we need to have a balanced budget amendment. I don't think that's radical. 49 states have a balanced budget amendment. You all probably live in your household with a balanced budget amendment. I think that's something that's very important to do. And also, I think we need to have tax code reform. Our taxes are so complicated and so ridiculously difficult to do and high. We should simplify our tax code and make it so you can do your taxes on the back of a postcard and have it so that, let's get rid of all we talk about, oh, the oil companies have loopholes. Well, they're called tax breaks. Everybody gets them. Let's get rid of all of them. That's fine with me. Let's flatten and simplify our tax code and bring in more tax revenue. I'm the first guy to tell you we need more tax revenue. But the way to get more tax revenue isn't raising taxes, it's creating more taxpayers. That's how you do it. You know, regardless of who's in, Republicans, Democrats in the White House, when you look at our tax revenue, at the very best, we bring in about somewhere between 18 and 19% of our GDP in tax revenue. And so that's about where our spending should be. Right now, our spending is 25% of GDP. Our tax revenue is 15%. Do the math. That's why our debt is piling on. And the spending is just going to go up. Soon, just the interest rate on our debt will exceed the defense budget. It'll be about what we're spending for Social Security. We need to rescue Social Security. We need to rescue Medicare and Medicaid because it's not going to be there. Those 22-year-olds that I talked about, they're paying into it. They're not going to get it unless we rescue it. And so those are some of the priorities that I think we need to have. Now, this is an election year, folks, so I want to do something a little different. There's a lot of rhetoric out there, a lot of partisanship, this and that about Mitt Romney, this and that about Barack Obama. So I, tonight, in the spirit of bipartisanship, I'm going to tell you three things, because I get this a lot when I'm out talking to folks. Well, you're a Republican. Is there anything that you agree with Barack Obama? So I'm going to tell you three things I agree with President Barack Obama, three things that I think he is on the right side about. And I've had the pleasure of meeting him. I think he's a terrific guy, and I think he actually wants what's best for this country. Now, I disagree with him on policy. And I support Mitt Romney for president because I think he has the right policy positions that will get us out of some of the problems that I've just been talking to you about. But I think Barack Obama wants what's best for this country. I think he's passionate about that, and I am too. And that's where, in the past, we've been able to work through our issues. If we both have the same ultimate goal in mind, but maybe we have different ideas about how to get there, let's figure out a way to bridge the gap and go forward, instead of just yelling and pointing fingers, because that's what's happening now. So the first thing is that I think Barack Obama is exactly right on, is earmarks. Barack Obama is against earmarks, and I think he's right, especially when we're broke. Earmarks are just parasites on our budget. They're a lubricant for bad legislation, and what's worse, at their most pernicious, earmarks are a way that certain congressmen can give out money to companies in their district and get taxpayer dollars back. It's called pay to play. It's legal bribery. That's the worst part of earmarks. The second thing that I agree with the president on is something that he just gave in his State of the Union address not too long ago. I think most important speech of the year for the president, State of the Union. Getting old, I need my glasses. I'm going to read from, this is an excerpt from the State of the Union address. Barack Obama, President Obama. I've talked tonight about the deficit of trust between Main Street and Wall Street. But the divide between this city, meaning Washington, D.C., and the rest of the country is at least as bad, and it seems to get worse every year. Some of this has to do with the corrosive influence of money in politics. So together, let's take some steps to fix that. Send me a bill that bans insider trading by members of Congress, and I will sign it tomorrow. So think about that. Does anybody in here think that when you send somebody to Congress and they find out privileged information in that privileged office that they hold, whether it's from the Secretary of Treasury, Secretary, or the Chairman of the Fed, and then they take that information and trade on it and make some, and line their own pockets and make money? Is that why you send people to Congress? I don't think it is. And so I agree with President Obama on that. And fortunately, a law was passed so that, talk about a no-brainer. I mean, insider trading is illegal everywhere else, but it wasn't illegal in Congress. Well, now it is, and I'm glad. The third thing that I want to talk about that I agree with him on is just kind of feeds from that, and that is civil discourse. We don't have any civil discourse in Washington, D.C. anymore. Very little. And I think he was right to call for more civil discourse. We need to tone down this rhetoric. I don't know how we're going to agree on anything as different parties anymore unless we tone down the rhetoric and we figure out a way that we can work together for the interest of the American public, not for our own interests, not for our own financial gain, and not to get reelected, but putting the American public and our constituency first. And so I support him in that. When your main rhetoric is to call your political adversaries the Taliban, when your main rhetoric is to call your political adversaries racists, when you make repeated anti-Semitic comments, statements publicly that your own political party calls grossly disturbing, and sitting members of your party in Congress publicly state they refuse to support you for re-election, that's a problem. We deserve better leadership than that. So, all those three issues. On the pay-to-play for earmarks, you've seen my literature out there. Actually, we need to update it. I had that my opponent, Mr. Moran, was in the top 1.5% of recipients of campaign kickbacks from earmarks. And actually, new numbers are out, and he's number one. Gets more campaign taxpayer dollars back than any congressman on the Hill. Last time, $111,000 and change. We wonder why we're broke. And he also on the insider trading. And please feel free to look at our sources. On the insider trading, the day after this happened, the private briefings from the Secretary of the Treasury, from the Chairman of the Fed, when our country, our economy was about to tank, I want my congressman in there trying to figure out what to do. I don't want him hunkered over a computer making 90 stock trades so he can protect his portfolio and make some money. So, I'm getting the time hack here. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we deserve better representation. I want to go to Congress and be your representative, and I'm happy to look to working across the aisle. I've worked in my military career in Iraq with Sunnis and Shias and Kurds. You think Republicans and Democrats are bad? Try Sunnis and Shias and Kurds. Go to the Balkans and try Serbs and Croats and Albanians. Heck, try the State Department and the Department of Defense. And I've done all of those. You have to approach this with a common goal. And our common goal should be moving this country forward and should be taking care of future generations instead of robbing them of their American birthright. So you all, thank you so much for hosting me tonight and for having me here. I appreciate your attention, and I would love to take some questions right now.